When we hear the word knight, most of us imagine shining armor, noble quests, and oaths of chivalry. But here's the twist. Much of what we think we know about knights is a romanticized invention of later centuries. Chivalry, as a code of conduct, sounds lofty, but in reality it was often a facade. The origins of knights trace back to the chaotic days of the early Middle Ages. After the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, Europe was splintered into warring factions. Armored cavalry became the backbone of military power, with knights serving as the enforcers of feudal lords. Their loyalty wasn't to a grand ideal, but to whoever paid them in land or coin. Take the infamous example of the 100 Years' War between England and France, a brutal conflict spanning over a century. Knights like Sir John Hawkwood, an English mercenary, made fortunes not by defending honor, but by hiring themselves out to the highest bidder. Hawkwood's company of knights didn't hesitate to pillage towns, leaving devastation in their wake. But it wasn't all bloodshed. The church sought to tame knights by promoting the concept of chivalry. The Peace and Truce of God movements, introduced in the 10th century, aimed to limit violence against peasants and clergy. Did knights truly abide by these ideals? Or was it just good PR for an otherwise ruthless profession? Keep watching. This story is about to take an unexpected turn. Knights weren't just warriors. They were also instruments of religious and political power. The Crusades, a series of holy wars between the 11th and 13th centuries, showcased the duality of knights as both defenders of faith and harbingers of destruction. Consider the First Crusade, launched in 1096. Knights from across Europe marched to the Holy Land, inspired by Pope Urban II's promise of salvation. But the reality of their journey was far from holy. The siege of Jerusalem in 1099 ended in a massacre. Thousands of men, women, and children, Muslims, Jews, and even Christians were slaughtered. Even the legendary Knights Templar, often viewed as paragons of knightly virtue, had a darker side. Established to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, the Templars amassed immense wealth and political influence. Their banking system rivaled that of modern institutions, and their loyalties were often questioned. When King Philip IV of France found himself in debt to the Templars, he orchestrated their downfall, accusing them of heresy and executing their leaders. Yet, there were knights who genuinely tried to embody the ideals of chivalry. Take William Marshal, often called the greatest knight. A loyal servant to several English kings, he fought with honor and avoided the pillaging that tarnished many knights' reputations. Marshal's life stands as a rare example of a knight who balanced duty, honor, and loyalty. But as the Middle Ages progressed, the romantic image of knights began to overshadow their brutal realities. Writers like Geoffrey of Monmouth and Chrétien de Troyes turned knights into literary heroes, weaving tales of King Arthur and the Round Table. These stories weren't history. They were propaganda, designed to inspire and control. By the late Middle Ages, knights were becoming obsolete. The rise of professional armies and advancements in weaponry, like the longbow and gunpowder, made heavily armored cavalry less effective. The Battle of Agincourt in 1415 is a perfect example. English archers decimated the French knights, proving that brute strength and shining armor were no match for strategic innovation. Knights tried to adapt, some turning to tournaments to showcase their skills. These events, however, were often more about entertainment than genuine combat. Jousting became a spectacle for the nobility, a shadow of the knights' former role as warriors. The final nail in the coffin for knights came with the rise of nation-states. Monarchs no longer relied on feudal lords and their knights. Instead, they built standing armies loyal to the crown. By the 16th century, the age of the knight had ended, replaced by a new era of professional soldiers. So, were knights noble heroes or ruthless mercenaries? The answer lies somewhere in between. They were products of their time, shaped by a brutal world where survival often trumped morality. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the fascinating history of medieval knights. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know, what's your take on the legacy of knights? Were they heroes, villains, or something in between? Let's discuss.